The girl had been in a terrible car accident. The doctors pronounced her dead, but in the next second she suddenly came back to life. She stared at the TV, frozen. The news was reporting that a woman's body had been recovered from the sea yesterday, and that woman was her. A chill ran down her spine as she gazed into the mirror at an unfamiliar face. Could it be she had been reborn in someone else's body? Her name was Tang Aining. She used to work as a corporate spy for the Tang family, until she was betrayed by her boyfriend and her cousin. Cornered by those two snakes, she chose to end her life by jumping into the sea. Before dying, she made a vicious vow. If there is another life, I'll make sure the entire Tang family pays in blood. The words struck like a curse, sending a shiver down their spines. Before they could react, Tang Aining leapt into the cold, dark ocean. The man, showing no trace of mercy, ordered his men to keep firing even after she jumped, determined to erase her completely. Bullets tore through her body and darkness swallowed her consciousness. Just when she thought everything was over, the jade pendant on her chest burst into a crimson glow. It was the phoenix blood jade her mother had left her. When she opened her eyes again, she was inside a stranger's body. Pain stabbed through her head as the girl's memories came flooding into her mind. The original host's name was Gu Ning. She too had been deceived by a man. Her fate was almost identical to Tang Aining's. She once thought she was Cinderella meeting her prince, but in the end, it was nothing more than a cruel joke. Unable to accept the truth, Gu Ning ran away in despair, only to be struck by a car. Tang Aining sneered. So, you were also betrayed and died for love? Gu Ning, since I've borrowed your body, I'll avenge both our lives, past and present. Just then, noise came from outside the hospital room. Ji Yuning's second aunt had come with the family's last 30,000 yuan, hoping to save her. Even the neat stack of 100 yuan bills inside the purse was clearly visible to Gu Ning's eyes. She suddenly sat up, realizing she could see through objects. Before she could make sense of it, a sharp pain shot through her eyes and she passed out. In her dream, her body sank deeper and deeper as the jade pendant on her chest blazed with red light. Then a mysterious voice echoed in her mind. Spirit and jade united, reborn through nirvana. The jade eyes open, the space seal is locked. When she awoke, the phoenix blood jade her mother left her had lost its glow. Could it be that the jade had merged into her body? She looked at the chair beside her, and it vanished into thin air, appearing inside her newly formed jade space. It seemed the pendant not only granted her clairvoyance but also the ability to store objects with a single thought. Overjoyed, Gu Ning waved her arms excitedly. The phoenix blood jade was truly a priceless treasure. But in her excitement she lost her balance and fell hard to the ground, snapping back to reality. Hearing the noise, her mother and aunt rushed in and quickly helped her up. It turned out the phoenix blood jade still needed to absorb large amounts of jade aura to function properly. Right now it could barely store a chair. But she had no money to buy jade, unless she gambled on rough stones. Glancing at her mother, she softly said she was fine and wanted to be discharged. Her mother misunderstood, thinking Gu Ning was worried about the hospital bills. Moved by her daughter's thoughtfulness, she held her tightly in her arms. Even if I have to sell everything we own, her mother said, I'll make sure you recover completely. To prevent any complications, she and the aunt went to consult the doctor. As soon as they left, Gu Ning's attending physician, Dr. N Qian, walked into the ward. The girl, Gu Ning, now possessed the jade eyes, granting her the power to see through all things and store them within her mental space by pure thought. After a brief examination, Dr. N confirmed that Gu Ning had fully recovered, then hurriedly took her leave. But Gu Ning soon noticed a man in a mask trailing behind Dr. N, moving in a suspicious way. Worried for the doctor's safety, she activated her jade eyes. To her horror, she saw a deadly electric blade strapped to the man's body. A weapon that discharges a fatal current the moment it pierces flesh. Such weapons only circulate on the black market. Ordinary people could never get their hands on one. A chill crept over her. Could it be the Tang family had discovered her rebirth? Keeping silent, she followed the masked man carefully from a distance. The man dragged Dr. up to the rooftop. Ji Yuning quickly called hospital security and reported the situation. From their conversation, she learned the masked man used to be Dr. An's colleague. After being fired for endangering patients, he'd been consumed by resentment. Now he was targeting the well-connected Dr. An, demanding 5 million in cash. Worried for Dr. An's safety, Gu-ning activated her jade eyes again, trying to pull the electric blade into her jade space. But her jade eyes were still too weak. After several failed attempts, she clenched her fists in frustration. Determined, she grabbed a steel pipe, crept closer to the masked man, then leapt high into the air and swung down hard at his neck. A strike swift and fluid like flowing water. With a heavy thud, the masked man collapsed to the floor, completely subdued. As Gu-ning turned to leave, Dr. An called out, wanting to repay her for saving her life. Without looking back, Gu-ning said calmly, "No need for thanks. Just give me a discharge slip and we're even." When she returned home, the sight of the bare, shabby rooms stirred the memories of the body's original owner. Though both she and her mother were from the Gu family, they'd been forced to live in this dilapidated place. Her grandmother refused to acknowledge them, calling her a bastard every chance she got. Her uncle and aunt were stingy to the bone, obsessed with money. Even this rundown house, they still made Gu-ning and her mother pay full rent. At that moment, her mother was cooking braised pork. The family could barely afford proper meals, but since Gu-ning had just recovered, her mother had bought some meat to celebrate. Watching her thin, overworked mother move about the kitchen, Gu-ning felt her nose sting with emotion. In truth, her mother needed nourishment far more than she did. She called out softly to her mother, then turned and ran out of the house. Arriving at the antique market, she decided to test her luck. But after circling the stalls, she realized almost everything there was fake. None of the items carried even a trace of spiritual energy. Just then, a girl with pink hair called out to her. When Gu-ning turned around, she saw that it was Xiao Feifei, the same girl from her class who always bullied her. Feifei didn't just insult her verbally, she often threw paper balls at her and scribbled all over her desk. Since she had walked right into Gu-ning's path, Gu-ning thought, "Don't blame me for being impolite." Gu-ning noticed that the jade bracelet Feifei had just bought was actually a fake. She smirked and said, "Wow, a young lady from a wealthy family wearing a counterfeit bracelet. That's a surprise." Feifei snapped back, "Didn't expect you to have such a strong grudge against the rich, Gu-ning. Just because you can't afford the real thing doesn't mean everyone else wears fakes." Gu-ning didn't bother responding. She'd rather spend her time treasure hunting than arguing. After browsing the entire antique market, she only found a grimy little bracelet that faintly emitted spiritual energy. "Let's see if this thing's the real deal," she muttered, buying it before heading straight to the appraisal center. The girl sold a shabby old bracelet she bought for just 40 yuan for 120,000, because she had a pair of eyes that could see through all things. Inside the appraisal center, Gu-ning casually took a seat. A middle-aged man nearby, curious, asked her how much she'd paid for the broken bracelet. Without even lifting her eyelids, Gu-ning simply raised 4 fingers. The man chuckled, thinking she meant 40,000. "You've been scammed," he said. "That thing isn't worth a fraction of that." Gu-ning waved her hand slightly and replied, 40 yuan. The man paused, then burst out laughing arrogantly. "Girl, just because something looks old doesn't mean it's real." He then pointed proudly to the snuff bottle in Elder Chio's hand. "Now this, passed down from my ancestors, is the real treasure." But in Gu-ning's eyes, the bottle had no spiritual energy at all. It was clearly a modern replica. Before she could even finish her thought, Elder Chio spoke up. "That snuff bottle of yours is a fake." The man froze, his arrogance melting away instantly. He had thought it was worth a fortune, only to find it was worthless. Gu-ning then stepped forward and asked Elder Chio to appraise her bracelet. A blonde guy nearby looked at the grimy bracelet and sneered, "These days people will try to sell anything. Girl, are you that desperate for money?" Elder Chio picked up his handkerchief, wiped the bracelet carefully, and his eyes widened in shock. The so-called junk bracelet was actually made from blue and white porcelain shards of an ancient dynasty, over 800 years old. Instantly, everyone turned to look at Gu-ning with eyes full of envy, jealousy, and disbelief. Yet Gu-ning remained completely calm, as if she had expected it all. She then said to Elder Chio, "Please, could you give me an estimate? I'd like to sell it." Before Elder Chio could even speak, someone from the back shouted, "I'll pay 30,000. Sell it to me right now." But the blonde guy wasn't having it. 30,000? You think you can buy that bracelet for peanuts? Keep dreaming. He immediately raised his offer to 60,000. Even Gu-ning was surprised. She hadn't expected something with such weak spiritual energy to be worth that much. Still, she needed more money. Picking up the bracelet, she sighed and said reluctantly, "This blue and white porcelain bracelet is almost one of a kind on the market. Maybe I shouldn't sell it after all." The blonde guy's eyes were glued to the bracelet. Terrified she might change her mind, he quickly blurted, 120,000. Though he was clearly being a sucker, the way he spent money so boldly made Gunning secretly admire him. With a bright smile, Gunning handed over the bracelet. For her, that price was a small fortune. Still, even though she had turned 40 yuan into 120,000 overnight, it wasn't nearly enough for what she needed to gamble on raw jade stones. She'd have to come up with another plan. What she didn't know was that as soon as she stepped out of the antique market, two thugs had already set their eyes on her. One of them grabbed her by the shoulder and growled, "Hey sweetheart, hand over all that money you just made." Gunning possessed a pair of jade-like eyes that could see through all things. With them she would one day build her own business empire. Just moments ago she'd sold an old bracelet she bought for 40 yuan for a whopping 120,000, but as she left the market, two thugs followed her. One grabbed her shoulder and demanded all her cash. Gunning twisted her arm sharply, nearly snapping the man's wrist. The guy in sunglasses froze, stunned that such a petite girl could be this strong. Refusing to back down, he pulled out a knife and snarled, "Give me the money or I'll slash that pretty face of yours." Gunning's eyes turned cold. "Go ahead if you think you've got the guts." Enraged, the man lunged forward, ready to teach her a lesson. But in the next instant, Gunning's leg whipped out, striking him squarely in the face. He dropped to his knees, screaming in pain. Just then a young man rushed over to help. Gunning recognized him. Mu Ku, a friend of her ex-boyfriend Qin Zheng. Probably the same kind of scum. She smirked coldly and said, "Tell Qin Zheng I'll be back at school tomorrow, so he'd better not wet his pants when he sees me." With that she turned on her heel and walked away. The next day at school, Qin Zheng nearly wet himself. He had seen Gunning almost split in half by a truck with his own eyes. Yet here she was, standing right in front of him, very much alive. Gunning slowly stepped closer, her voice icy. "Surprised to see me alive? Guess my will to live is stronger than you expected. Sorry to disappoint you, young Master Qin." Qin Zheng's face went pale, that he stammered that the car accident had nothing to do with him, then made up an excuse and hurried away. In class 4 of grade 12, the moment Gunning walked in, she felt the waves of disdain and contempt. Following the gazes, she saw Xiao Feifei glaring at her with venom in her eyes. Feifei sneered, "Well, if it isn't Gunning, the girl who went treasure hunting to find herself a sugar daddy. Didn't manage to hook one, huh?" Gunning wasn't the type to let things slide. She shot back, "Amazing. No matter where I go, there's always a swarm of annoying flies buzzing around." Feifei's face twisted in anger. "Gunning, who are you calling a fly?" Gunning replied coolly, "Whoever's jumping up and down, that's who." Her desk mate Yu Mixi tugged gently on her sleeve and whispered, We can't win against those rich brats." But Feifei wasn't done. She strutted over with two cronies, accusing Gunning of chasing rich men and calling her dark and twisted inside. The whole class began whispering, pointing fingers at Gunning like she was some kind of criminal. Gunning never went looking for trouble, but that didn't mean she was afraid of it. She brushed Yu Mixi's hand aside and prepared to face the three girls head-on. Feifei burst out laughing. "Please, all bark and no bite. A broke loser who can't even afford lunch going to an antique market. Don't tell me you weren't just trying to catch yourself a rich man." Xiao Feifei kept repeating the same few lines, and Gunning's ears were starting to itch from the noise. The two locked eyes, neither willing to back down. Feifei snapped first. "Why the hell are you staring at me?" Gunning suddenly burst out laughing. "I just walked into class and you started barking like a dog. Those two eyes of yours won't stop staring at me. What's wrong? Do you like me or something? Too bad I'm straight." The class exploded into laughter. Feifei's face turned crimson with rage. She lunged forward, hands clawing, ready to tear Gunning apart. But Gunning wasn't about to back down. She grabbed a crumpled piece of paper from her desk. With a sharp flick, smack, the paper ball shot straight into Feifei's mouth. The move was so clean and fast that the whole class froze in disbelief. Even her two lackeys were stunned. Was this really the same timid Gunning they used to bully? Once upon a time, Gunning had been in a terrible car accident. The doctors declared her dead, but she woke up, completely changed. The meek girl was gone. In her place stood someone who would never bow to humiliation again. Fei Fei spat out the paper, screaming like a madwoman as she charged at Gu Ning. But Gu Ning only sneered, swung her arm and slapped her so hard that Fei Fei hit the floor instantly. Everyone stared in disbelief. Was this really the same timid Gu Ning they once knew? Yumixi instantly turned into a fangirl, clenching her fists and cheering Gu Ning on. Xiao Fei Fei, furious, grabbed a water bottle and hurled it straight at Gu Ning. Gu Ning, watch out! Yumixi shouted, throwing herself in front of her and taking the hit. Seeing the swelling bump on Yumixi's head, Gu Ning felt a sharp pang in her chest. Did I end this entire class? Mixi was probably the only one who genuinely cared for her. Gu Ning looked down and hooked the fallen bottle with her foot. In one swift motion she kicked it through the air like a striker aiming for a goal. Fei Fei screamed in panic. If that kick landed, she'd be lucky to escape without serious injury. Then came a loud smack. A hand shot out and caught the bottle midair. The newcomer was none other than the class sports rep, who had been pursuing Fei Fei for months. He glared at Gu Ning. What's wrong with you? You could have seriously hurt someone. Gu Ning sneered. You sure like to stick your nose where it doesn't belong. I know you've got a crush on Xiao Fei Fei, but newsflash, she's way out of your league. Stop throwing your warm face at her cold back. The sports rep's face flushed red, then white, but for Fei Fei's sake he forced himself to stay calm. You're just trying to stir up trouble, he snapped. Just then the homeroom teacher stormed into the classroom. Flustered and angry, the sports rep rushed to tattle first. Teacher. Gu Ning started the fight. If I hadn't stepped in, Xiao Fei Fei's face would have been ruined. Gu Ning crossed her arms and said coolly, I was just trying to kick that ugly bottle out of the way. She's the one who moved her head into it. Liar. Fei Fei screamed, pointing at her. You did it on purpose. Yumixi clutched her head and recounted everything that had just happened. After hearing both sides, the homeroom teacher gave them a choice. Since both were at fault, decide between being punished together or making up right now. The two girls pretended to shake hands in truce. At lunchtime, Gu Ning dragged Yumixi up to the upscale restaurant on the second floor. Their appearance caught the attention of Gu Ning's cousin, Gu Xiaoxiao, one of the people partly responsible for Gu Ning's car accident. Gu Xiaoxiao's face twisted with malice. A pauper on the second floor? I'll teach her a lesson she won't forget. Gu Ning slid the menu over to Yumixi. Order whatever you want. I'm paying today. A snide voice cut through the air. Why are you two shabby girls even allowed up on the second floor? Gu Ning turned and saw Qin Ziao with her two sidekicks approaching. She had no interest in entertaining the clown and continued picking dishes, refusing to engage. But Qin Ziao wouldn't let it go. She spat out a vile insult about Gu Ning's mother, calling her some kind of unwed trash and saying children like that should get out of school. For Gu Ning, her mother was a sacred boundary that couldn't be crossed. In an instant she slapped Qin Ziao down onto the table. Her knuckles clicked like breaking bones, her voice ice cold and terrifying. Apologize to my mother. Right now. The entire second floor fell silent in shock. People rushed to calm Gu Ning down, urging her not to act rashly. Gu Xiaoxiao stormed over furiously. Gu Ning. Let her go. Gu Ning finally pieced it together. No wonder Qin Ziao came looking for trouble. So it was you pulling the strings behind her, huh? Her clenched fist came crashing down again. Xiaoxiao hadn't expected Gu Ning to defy her so openly. You dare hit Yao Yao? Have you lost your mind? She screamed. Gu Ning coolly dug a finger in her ear. Yeah, I hit her. So what? You're going to kneel and kowtow 10 times in front of Yao Yao, or this isn't over. Xiaoxiao snapped. Just then, a girl with a lollipop between her lips sauntered over. Gu Ning, your social luck is terrible, she said with a teasing grin. First day back at school and you're already starting fights? The tension in the restaurant thickened, and the newcomer was none other than Chu Peihan, the principal's daughter. Gu Ning narrowed her eyes, unsure whether this girl was a friend or foe. To her surprise, Chu Peihan stepped beside her, pointed at Gu Xiaoxiao and snapped, Get lost, don't push your luck. Even the arrogant Gu Xiaoxiao didn't dare talk back to her. With a dark, stormy face, she turned and left. Watching the girl who had stood up for her, Gu Ning couldn't help but think, so this is what a decent rich kid looks like. Despite her background, Chu Peihan was sharp-tongued but kind-hearted. Chu Peihan blinked and said casually, Don't get me wrong, I just can't stand people like them. That evening after school, a van screeched to a halt in front of Gu Ning. 4 or 5 burly men jumped out, surrounding her on all sides. Sensing their hostility, Guning didn't hesitate. She struck first, dropping them to the ground in seconds. But before she could catch her breath, someone came at her from behind. In the nick of time, a dark figure lunged forward, knocking her out of harm's way. With a swift hand strike, the newcomer took the attacker down instantly. Guning turned and found herself staring at a strikingly handsome man, his entire body carrying the scent of blood. The man said in a low voice, "Take me somewhere safe," and tossed her a green gemstone as payment. When she looked down, she realized it was an imperial green jade, pulsing with rich spiritual energy. She agreed without a second thought. Later, she absorbed the jade's spiritual energy into her own jade eyes. Though the stone was now drained, its quality remained pristine. Her top priority now, turn it into cash. The next night she went to Yichuixian, the largest jade store in F City. Guning estimated that the imperial green could fetch at least 12 million, though selling it too quickly would mean a discount. She just hoped the store owner was fair. When she revealed the jade, the two clerks were stunned. They had never seen anything like it. They immediately called for the boss. The owner's eyes gleamed the moment he saw it. A jade of this grade was once in a lifetime. Miss this, and who knew when the next would appear? But rules were rules. In the jade trade, no one bought stones without a clear origin. Too much risk, too much trouble. Guning noticed the owner's hesitation and reassured him, leaving her contact details. She explained she chose Yichuixian because of its reputation, and that the jade's water and color were exceptional, its value far from ordinary. The owner rubbed his eyes and, hearing her speak, realized she wasn't some clueless amateur. He immediately offered 10 million, a figure well beyond what Guning had expected. The deal was sealed on the spot. With that seed money, Guning planned to spend time gambling on raw stones and picking out more rough jade. "She's the cruelest woman I've ever seen," someone muttered, jealous of her cousin, spreading slander around school. Upon learning that Gu Xiaoxiao was the one who got Guning's mother hospitalized, Guning wanted to round up people and confront her. But her mother gripped her sleeve and begged her not to go. "No matter what, Xiaoxiao is still your cousin." Pressed by her mother's plea, Guning reluctantly put the matter aside for now. Meanwhile, Gu Xiaoxiao was busy stirring rumors at school, claiming Guning's mother was using the most expensive medicine. Where did that money even come from? Her cronies chimed in, insisting Guning must be someone's kept woman. Guning happened to pass by and heard it all. She thought to herself, what a gossiping bunch. Seeing Guning approach, Gu Xiaoxiao only sneered louder. "Can't handle your own mess. If you're not being kept, how did you afford your mom's treatment?" Guning stepped closer, voice cold. 9 years of compulsory schooling didn't teach you respect for elders. It taught you how to twist the truth. Gu Xiaoxiao pretended ignorance and asked what she meant. Without a word, Guning pulled out her phone and slapped it down in front of her. "I recorded the fight. I'll show it to my mother and tell her you pushed me." Scared her so badly she fell down the stairs. "Now do you get it?" No one could believe it. The school's golden girl doing something this vile. Accusations flew from every direction, leaving Gu Xiaoxiao completely speechless. Just then Qin Jing stepped out from the crowd. Xiaoxiao clung to him as if he were her only lifeline. Grabbing his arm with teary eyes, she pleaded, "Guning's slandering me again. Please get her expelled." The crowd erupted in whispers and glares. "Crying wolf, huh? How shameless," someone muttered. Qin Jing felt his blood boil that he couldn't believe his girlfriend could stoop this low that he yanked his arm free. "Stop acting spoiled," he said coldly. "The school doesn't belong to your family. That you're nothing but a brainless drama queen." Without another glance, he walked away. Watching him leave, Xiaoxiao's tears streamed down in frustration and humiliation. "Guning, you just wait," she shouted before running off sobbing. Back at the Gu residence, she threw herself onto her grandmother's lap, crying pitifully. "Grandma, you have to help me. Kick that shameless mother and daughter out of the house." Because Guning's mother had given birth out of wedlock, the two had long been ostracized by the family, mocked, humiliated, and even cursed by her own relatives as born but not raised. In the Gu family hall, Xiaoxiao sobbed dramatically, demanding her grandmother drive them both out. Her aunt slammed the table, furious. She couldn't believe Xiaoxiao would be so disrespectful, especially toward her own aunt. Xiaoxiao's mother, Lin Lijuan, snapped back, pointing at her sister-in-law's face. "Oh, shut up. What? Scared people will remember you had a child out of wedlock too. The family's real disgrace is yours. The aunt clenched her fists, her voice shaking with anger. You people can refuse to acknowledge her, fine, but watch your mouth. Gu Ning is not a disgrace. At last, the old matriarch of the Gu family spoke. As long as Gu Ning apologizes properly to Xiao Xiao, I'll let you and your mother stay. After all, you're just a pitiful pair of women. Before she could finish, Gu Ning pushed the door open and stepped inside. She went straight to her aunt, took her mother by the hand and turned to leave. She'd finally seen it clearly. There wasn't a single decent soul left in this family. Staying here would only bring her mother more humiliation. The old woman, enraged that Gu Ning hadn't even greeted her, slammed the table hard. Gu Ning, stop right there. You ungrateful brat. Don't even know who your father is, yet you dare defy me. If you don't kneel and apologize to Xiao Xiao today, you're out of this house for good. Gu Ning's expression darkened, her patience gone. My mother worked herself to the bone just to raise me, she snapped. She even pays you outrageous rent. Don't you feel ashamed taking her money? You're not short on cash, you just think we're easy to bully. Then she pointed straight at Xiao Xiao's family. From now on, I don't care about this house or the Gu family, that we don't need any of you. The old lady trembled with fury. Fine. Then you can sleep on the streets tomorrow. Gu Ning grabbed the old woman's hand sharply and said with a cold smile, Don't bother, I've already bought a place. 2 luxury apartments actually. Feel free to drop by sometime. She flung the old woman's hand aside. Supporting her mother, Gu Ning turned to leave, her voice cutting through the air. Remember this. From this moment on, I have nothing to do with the Gu family. Don't ever try to claim me again. And with that, their ties were severed for good. Using the money from the Imperial Jade sale, Gu Ning purchased 2 luxury 3-bedroom apartments. Her friends came over to help with the move, bringing her aunt along to settle in the new home. From that day forward, Gu Ning and her mother no longer had to live under anyone's thumb, and those greedy, self-serving relatives could all go to hell. After settling her aunt in, Gu Ning finally turned her focus to her next move, heading to the Jusher Group's Stone Gambling Expo to chase her grand ambitions. She knew all too well that in this ruthless world, strength was everything. Without wealth and connections, even basic respect was a luxury. What others saw as worthless rocks, she saw as priceless treasures. Determined to build her own business empire, Gu Ning boarded a flight to the Jusher Stone Gambling Expo with Mu Ku. Since Mu Ku's family ran a jewelry business, traveling with her made for the perfect cover. Gu Ning wouldn't draw too much attention. In the waiting lounge, Gu Ning unexpectedly ran into Qin Yifan, the owner of Yi Tui Xian. During their chat, she learned that Mu Ku and Qin Yifan already knew each other, and they were headed to the same event. They were all bound for the Jusher Stone Gambling Expo, though Qin Yifan's girlfriend Li Jinjin looked Gu Ning up and down with disdain. A student at a stone gambling expo. What a joke, she sneered. To Gu Ning, the woman was nothing but a clown, not worth her time or words. The expo was buzzing with excitement, packed with people and energy. Yet the stones on display seemed dull and lifeless to her, devoid of any spiritual aura that if she lingered too long her own energy might run dry. Then in a dim corner 2 stones caught her attention, radiating dense spiritual energy. She and Mu Ku walked over and asked the vendor for the price. 200 per gene, he replied. Gu Ning's lips curled into a faint smile. She had struck gold. To avoid suspicion, she casually picked a few worthless scraps along with them. She then pushed the cart of stones toward the cutting area. The craftsman glanced at her youthful face and chuckled. Brave one, aren't you? Not many young ladies dare to gamble on stones. The first stone revealed nothing, no trace of green. Gu Ning stayed perfectly calm and said evenly, Let's try the second one. Sure enough, the second stone flashed a brilliant shade of green. The onlookers were more excited than she was. After all, in stone gambling, 9 out of 10 losses were common. A single win could change everything. People started shouting out bids on the spot. But Gu Ning remained composed. No rush, she said with a small smile. Keep cutting. The crowd around her grew thicker. The cutter's next slice revealed jade with fine texture and a faint yellow hue, a rare glutinous rice variety. The crowd gasped, eyes wide, mouths practically watering. Offers poured in, 5 million, 7 million, one after another. Then a booming voice echoed, 10 million. Everyone turned to see a dignified man in his 70s enter, folding fan in hand. Almost instantly, a younger man countered, 15 million. The old man chuckled. Young man, my collection's full of jade. You think I'm missing one? But then he smirked and said, still, I'll take it. 20 million. His eyes gleamed. Good jade is never too much. Who's the owner? Standing before the crowd, Gu Ning remained steady and polite. Good evening, Master Fu. The jade belongs to me. As she spoke, she placed her hand gently on the stone, quietly drawing every trace of spiritual energy from it. Master Fu's eyes twinkled with admiration. Remarkable, he said. So young and yet so composed after revealing a glutinous rice jade. The young bidder wasn't done yet. 25 million, he called out. Without hesitation, Master Fu raised his hand again. 30 million. The crowd erupted. That was a sky-high price, and everyone stared at Gu Ning in awe and envy of her extraordinary luck. Master Fu chuckled, patting the young man's shoulder. Be a good nephew and let this old man have it, If another fine jade turns up later, I'll help you get it. The young man sighed. No one could refuse a favor from Master Fu. Mu Ku gazed at the pile of stones on the cart, eyes sparkling. To her, these weren't just rocks. They were piles of money waiting to be born. Come on, Ning, let's cut another one, she urged. But Gu Ning picked up the most inconspicuous stone of the lot. It looked plain, but she sensed it wasn't inferior to the glutinous jade from before. If she opened it now, it might draw too much attention. Just as she hesitated, a mocking voice called out, What's the point of buying so many? If none of them produce jade, it's all for nothing. Gu Ning's eyes narrowed. That stone might look worthless, but its spiritual energy pulsed strong. Before she could decide, Li Jinjin and Qin Yifan showed up. Seeing the pile of stones, Li Jinjin smirked. Wow, so many rocks. What's the plan? If nothing comes out, all that effort's wasted. A bystander shot back. Wasted? She just opened a glutinous jade. You sure you want to keep talking? Qin Yifan stepped forward with a grin. Impressive, Gu Ning, that you've really got a knack for this. Li Jinjin scoffed. A knack? Pleased that it's obvious Mu Ku picked the right one. Ji Ning just took the credit. But fate had other ideas. Every stone Mu Ku chose turned out to be trash. Not a single jade piece among them. The slap in the face couldn't have been louder. Li Jinjin's jealousy burned, but she refused to admit defeat. Pointing at the dull stone in Gu Ning's hands, she sneered, No pine flowers, no python bands, there's nothing inside. Total waste of money. Master Fu stroked his beard with amusement. Oh, you know how to gamble stones, young lady? Li Jinjin raised her chin proudly. Of course. From a geological standpoint, the jade inside corresponds to the outer skin. Pine flowers and python bands are key surface indicators. She jabbed a finger at the stone in Gu Ning's hand and declared, That one, pure garbage. Gu Ning smirked wickedly. Who said you need those surface patterns to find jade? She handed the stone to the cutter. Master, let's give them something to talk about. The crowd leaned in, holding their breath, eyes locked on the stone, not daring to blink. Crack. The shell broke, revealing a soft blue jade inside, clear, vibrant, and full of luster. It wasn't just jade. It was premium quality. Master Fu pulled out his magnifier, beard quivering with delight. A high-ice jade second only to glass grade. He immediately offered 20 million to buy it, but the young bidder from before shouted, 25 million. Master Fu chuckled. All right, I won't compete this time. My glutinous jade from earlier's good enough for me. Gu Ning patted Li Jinjin on the shoulder. As they say, practice is the only test of truth. Li Jinjin's face turned red with anger. That was just luck. I don't believe you can pull top-grade jade every time. Gu Ning ignored her and turned to leave, clearly done with the nonsense. But Li Jinjin snapped. Gu Ning, do you dare to gamble with me? She raised her voice so everyone could hear. Tomorrow 3 stones each. Whoever gets the better jade wins. 1 million bet, don't you chicken out. Gu Ning agreed without hesitation. Qin Yifan rushed to intervene. Jinjin, your parents didn't give you that kind of money. Don't make a fool of yourself out of jealousy. Li Jinjin clung to his arm, snapping, I just can't stand her smug face. It's just a few glass-grade jades. I'll get one tomorrow too. Master Fu sighed and stroked his beard. Careful, young lady. Boasting too soon can make your tongue slip. You could search this entire venue and still not find many glass-grade stones. He then turned to Qin Yifan with a grin. This match is going to be a spectacle. Let's make it official. Live stream the gamble tomorrow. Let the world see real jade cutting. Word spread fast. A young girl who'd opened 2 premium jades in one day. Hearing the rumors, Li Zhenyu grew curious. The next day he came with Li Jinjin to witness this so-called legendary girl for himself. Gu Ning had been waiting for a while. The moment she saw Li Jinjin, she smirked. Took you long enough that I thought you'd chickened out. Qin Yifan, sensing the tension, quickly stepped in. All right, no fighting. Let's get started. Li Jinjin's bodyguard carefully placed 3 boxes on the table. Gu Ning activated her jade eyes and swept her gaze across them. Not bad, 2 out of the 3 could reveal jade. She pointed casually. I'll take this one. Li Zhenyu frowned slightly. Arrogant little girl, he thought. Does she think finding high-iced jade makes her untouchable? Gu Ning replied coolly. No need for small talk. Let's see results. The cutter sliced through her stone. Nothing. And Li Jinjin's first stone. Also a dud. On the second round, Li Jinjin seized the initiative, muttering to herself, this time it has to be jade. More and more people gathered around, the crowd buzzing with anticipation. Crack. Her stone revealed frost jade. A respectable find. Li Jinjin grinned smugly, shooting Gu Ning a taunting glance. Gu Ning simply smiled, drew a neat line across her second stone and said calmly, don't be so sure. Mine might just be better. Another crack, and the crowd gasped. The texture was pure, the translucence stunning. It was old pit glass grade jade. Instantly, Li Jinjin's frost jade paled in comparison. The onlookers roared, shouting prices and waving to buy it. Li Zhenyu's eyes hardened. This girl is far more dangerous than she looks. He stepped forward. 50 million. But Qin Yifan was faster. 70 million, he declared firmly. Though he and Li Zhenyu were on good terms, business was business. The highest bidder wins, and besides, the Li siblings didn't even have that much cash. Qin Yifan turned to Gu Ning with a polite smile. Satisfied with the price? Gu Ning nodded slightly. She respected him, he'd been fair from the start. With a flick of her wrist, she tossed him the jade. Go handle the paperwork, she said coolly. Gu Ning gave a faint, teasing smile. So Li Jinjin, she drawled, are we cutting the third one or not? Li Jinjin clenched her jaw, eyes full of defiance as she slammed the last stone onto the cutting table. Of course, this one's going to crush yours. But deep down her heart pounded. Please heaven, just this once, let me win. Crack. The shell split open, and there it was, a brilliant flash of green. Not just any jade, but the rare imperial green. Li Jinjin's face lit up with triumph as she held the stone high, basking in the crowd's awe. Li Zhenyu was thrilled too, grinning ear to ear. Don't sell this one. Father will be ecstatic when he sees it. But Gu Ning's expression didn't change. She crossed her arms and said coolly, don't celebrate too soon. It'll have to top my 70 million before it's worth bragging about. It was an ordinary stone on the outside, yet it had produced an imperial green. Too good to be true. While the siblings reveled in their victory, Gu Ning's cold smile deepened. You sure you're not celebrating a bit early? She said lightly. The words hit a nerve. Li Jinjin flared up. What's that supposed to mean? Trying to pick a fight? Li Zhenyu scowled. Ignore her. Keep cutting. We'll shut her up with results. I've seen this rough myself. It's solid material. The cutter's blade came down again. Another slice. This time revealing nothing but yellow and white stone, not a hint of green. Li Jinjin froze, disbelief washing over her. No way. Where did the imperial green go? The crowd murmured in disappointment. The truth was clear. It was skin jade, green only on the surface. The so-called imperial green was nothing more than a thin outer layer. Next came Gu Ning's third stone. The crowd held its breath, eager to see if she could pull off another miracle. As the blade sliced down, a faint violet glow shimmered through the crack, and when the dust settled, a gleaming purple jade emerged. Holy crap, it's lavender jade, someone shouted. I've never seen such beautiful purple jade in my life. The audience buzzed with excitement as bidding voices erupted all around. Gu Ning turned to Qin Yifan with a teasing smile. Young Master Qin, since you're standing closest, care to make an offer? Qin Yifan laughed, picked up the jade and said boldly, 60 million. By now he had already spent a staggering 130 million in total on Guning's jades, truly living up to his reputation for deep pockets. Li Jinjin, on the other hand, was already losing it, eyes wild, breathing heavy, practically ready to throw herself at Guning in rage. Fortunately, Li Zhenyu grabbed her arm in time. "Calm down," he muttered. "Starting a scene here will only make us look stupid. This is our turf. We'll have plenty of chances to deal with her." Once things settled, Guning and Mu Ku strolled casually through the venue. That's when she spotted a middle-aged man carefully studying a stone that pulsed with spiritual energy. His focus and discernment instantly caught her attention. This man clearly knew his jade. A nearby guest whispered, "That's Zhou Zhenghong, former chairman of Zhoufu Jewelry. Got framed by Xiao Ping and lost everything. So he's here trying to make a comeback," Guning thought. "If he's truly skilled, I'll make sure to bring him under my wing." She subtly sent Mu Ku away and started walking toward him. But before she could reach Zhou Zhenghong, Xiao Ping appeared, flanked by 2 bodyguards. Zhou's jaw tightened. His glare was pure hatred. Xiao Ping smirked, slapping the stone in Zhou's hand. "Still dreaming of a comeback? You can't even afford the material you're holding. Stop wasting your time, old man." Just as Xiao Ping finished mocking, a calm yet cutting voice rang out. "Who said we can't afford it?" Everyone turned to see Guning stepping forward with a confident smile. "Uncle Zhou," she said lightly, "let's go pay for it." Before Zhou Zhenghong could protest, Guning took him by the arm and walked off, leaving no room for argument. On the way, she quietly activated her jade eyes. A faint aura shimmered from the stone, glutinous jade. Her instincts were right. Zhou truly had a sharp eye. Seeing the conviction in his gaze, Guning proposed, "Let's split the cost 50-50. Partners on this one." Zhou hesitated. Sure, that'd make it possible to buy the stone, but could he really trust a young girl he'd just met? Little did he know this ordinary stone would soon sell for a stunning 18 million. Before he could decide, Guning simply snatched the stone and placed it on the cutting table. "If it's a loss, it's on me, that if it's profit, we split it." Crack. The blade sliced clean, revealing a vivid green shine from within. Just as Guning predicted, it was premium glutinous jade. Bids erupted from all sides and it finally sold for 18 million. Watching from the sidelines, Xiao Ping's face twisted with rage. He spat on the ground and growled, "We'll see about this," before storming off. After the sale, Zhou Zhenghong took out his phone. "Miss Gu, give me your account. I'll transfer your share right now." Guning waved her hand. "No rush. Keep it for now. I value trust more than money. Besides, there's something I'd like your help with, Mr. Zhou." Her words struck him deeply. Moved by her sincerity, Zhou pounded his chest. "If it's within my power, I'll do it. No questions asked." Guning smiled. "I'm planning to open a jade boutique here in Jushi. Since you know this city well, I'd like your help finding the right location." Zhou was taken aback. He hadn't expected someone so young to have both such vision and financial strength. "That's easy," he said quickly. "But no way, that'll cost you 9 million. Guning reached into her bag, pulled out a gleaming stone and placed it in his hand. "The rest of the money plus this stone, consider it my offer for you to serve as the chairman of my company." Zhou froze, that he knew full well that anything from Guning's hand was bound to be extraordinary. He stared at her for a long moment, his chest tight with emotion, before finally murmuring, "Miss Gu, I'm truly convinced." Guning continued calmly, "As you can see, my identity isn't suited for the spotlight. You as the figurehead chairman would be perfect. You'll get your fair share of profits and dividends, not a cent less. Besides, Xiao Ping stole your company. Don't you want to take it back?" The words hit Zhou Zhenghong straight in the heart. Of course he wanted to rise again, but he knew all too well that reclaiming his company alone was nearly impossible. Without hesitation, Zhou straightened up and declared solemnly, "Miss Gu, I, Zhou Zhenghong, am willing to follow you." The two clasped hands firmly, sealing their partnership. Before leaving, Guning said, "The company will be called Fi's Beauty. I'll fund it. You'll handle everything else." For Guning, opening her first jade boutique in Jushi was merely step one of a far larger revenge plan. Her eyes turned cold as frost. "Revenge is a dish best served cold. Tang family, I'll deal with you in due time." Later, she spotted a rare tricolored stone glowing faintly in the light, red, yellow, and blue intertwined. People called it Fu Lu Shou, symbolizing fortune, prosperity, and longevity, a true treasure of the jade world. Having drawn too much attention at the stone gambling expo, Ning and Zhou decided to continue cutting stones at a nearby Jade shop instead. The store manager, noticing their bearing, greeted them with utmost respect. Their luck was remarkable. The first 2 stones revealed glass-grade jade and vivid coxcomb red. But the third stone gave Ning a strange feeling. She instructed the manager to grind a bit of the surface first. As the outer layer came off, brilliant red, yellow, and blue hues burst forth, glowing with prismatic light. The manager gasped, "Fu Lu Shou. It's really Fu Lu Shou Jade." His hands trembled with excitement, eyes gleaming greedily. "Miss, are you selling it? Name your price. A stone like this could easily fetch 100 million on the market." Ning smiled faintly. "No, this one's for me. I'll make a few pairs of earrings, gifts for my mother and my aunt." She then asked Ku to stay behind and sell the previous 2 pieces while she went to browse the antique market. As soon as she entered, a surge of spiritual energy caught her attention. It was radiating from an ancient wine jug. She approached the stall. "How much for the jug?" The vendor glanced up, saw a young girl, and smirked inwardly. "Easy prey. That's the Qianlong Emperor's personal cup. Only 10,000. A bargain, really." To his surprise, Ning simply pulled out her bank card. The vendor beamed, hurriedly taking the payment before she could change her mind. Ning gave a soft, mocking laugh. "If you knew this was genuine, you'd be crying right now." As she turned to leave, a sudden metallic clang echoed beneath her feet. Looking down, she noticed, under the cracked floor tile lay a pile of broken porcelain shards. Suddenly, a bleached blonde man pointed at Ning and roared, "That's my family's heirloom, a celadone bean-glazed vase. You'd better pay for it." One glance told Ning exactly what this was. A setup. She crossed her arms and asked calmly, "All right then, how much do you want?" The man smirked. 500,000. Cash. Now. Ning chuckled coldly. "Talk is cheap. Take the shards for appraisal, but if it's genuine, I'll pay every cent." The thug whipped out a piece of paper and waved it triumphantly. "Black and white proof. An official certificate. Still think you can wiggle out of it?" Ning didn't even blink. "Plenty of witnesses here. I'm not running anywhere." Then her voice sharpened. "But you won't dare take it for a real test, will you? Afraid they'll expose your fake?" The man's expression faltered. Still, he puffed up his chest, pretending to dial. "Fine. I'll call the cops right now." Ning could see through his little performance a mile away. She sneered. "Go ahead. Call them. Who knows, maybe you'll finally get a roof over your head, and free meals in jail." The blonde man's face twisted with rage, but he raised his fist, lunging toward her. Just then, another man rushed in to break it up. "Hey, calm down. Don't hit a girl, not worth it," he said, stepping between them. He then turned to Ning with feigned sympathy. "Miss, just give him 20,000 to smooth things over. No need to make a big scene." Ning's eyes narrowed. She saw it instantly. This so-called mediator was in on the scam. Their good cop, bad cop routine couldn't fool her for a second. Just then, Elder Fu stepped out from the crowd, his calm yet commanding voice cutting through the noise. "What's all this commotion about?" The 2 scammers froze, color draining from their faces the instant they recognized him. Anyone who'd spent time in the antique market knew Elder Fu, a respected figure whose word carried weight. The 2 men stammered, "A misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding." Another elderly voice joined in. "I saw everything," the man said sternly. "You 2 punks, stop lying." The moment they saw this man, their knees nearly gave out. It was Elder Yen, the mayor's father and one of the most revered collectors in the city. They bowed repeatedly, trembling, mumbling apologies to both elders. Just as they tried to slip away, Elder Fu grabbed them by the collars like scolded children and dragged them back. "You owe your apology to this young lady," he said, pointing at Ning. Ning's tone was icy. "No need. I've already called the police. You can confess when they arrive." The 2 scammers were soon escorted away by officers. Ning thanked the elders politely, then left the market and caught a taxi. A few minutes into the ride, she frowned. The route was wrong. The driver suddenly swerved into a narrow alley. Ning moved like lightning, locking her arm around his neck. "Stop. The car." Her strength was overwhelming. The driver went limp and fainted instantly. The taxi rolled to a stop. Outside, 4 or 5 burly men stood blocking the alley. Gu Ning's eyes narrowed. There was only one person in Jusher who'd go this far, Li Jinjin. The men didn't bother with words. Cracking their knuckles, they closed in, clearly intending to teach her a bloody lesson. Gu Ning sprang upward like lightning, her leg whipping out in a blur. The kick landed squarely in the leader's gut. Blood spurted from his mouth as he flew backward, crashing to the ground. The others exchanged tense glances before rushing her all at once with angry shouts. But to Gu Ning they moved like slow-motion puppets. With swift, precise strikes she dropped them one by one. In seconds, all four men were groaning on the pavement. She stepped forward, cold and steady. "Call your boss, that I want to talk to Li Jinjin." Meanwhile, Li Jinjin was having dinner with Qin Yifan, chatting casually, the mood surprisingly pleasant. Her phone buzzed. Using the excuse of a business call, she slipped away to answer it. "Brother Lu, it's done, right? I'll transfer the 100 grand to you right now," she said eagerly. But instead of Lu's voice, an icy tone came through the speaker. "Miss Li," Gu Ning said coldly, "my reputation's only worth 100,000 to you. I'll remember this, and I'll collect every debt personally." Li Jinjin's face stiffened. Impossible. Even Lan Ying's men couldn't handle her? She gritted her teeth. "Are you threatening me, Gu Ning?" "Yes," Gu Ning replied flatly. "If you've got the guts to act, you'd better have the guts to pay the price." She hung up without another word and walked away. What she didn't know was that across the street in a nondescript black sedan, Lan Ying's boss, C2, had witnessed the entire scene with his own eyes. Later, Gu Ning entered an office building. As she stepped into the elevator, a man brushed past and bumped her side. Immediately, a bad feeling hit her. She felt something hard press against her waist during the bump. Her jade eyes flared open. Every person in the elevator was armed, each one carrying a handgun. Then her gaze fell on a man holding a case, and through the layers she saw what was inside: piles of glittering white diamonds. Gu Ning took a quiet breath, her instincts screaming, these men weren't here for dinner. Coincidentally, they were on the same floor, right next door to her private room. Curiosity got the better of her. Activating her jade eyes, she peered through the wall. Two groups sat facing each other, tension thick in the air. On the table, two metal cases. One glittered with diamonds, the other shone with stacked gold bars. An illegal trade. They didn't seem connected to the Tang family, but still, caution came first. She leaned toward Mu Ku and whispered, "We should leave, now." Just then there was a polite knock at the door. "Complimentary vouchers for our guests today." The hotel manager's voice came, calm, but with an undertone that said, "Get out while you can." Gu Ning understood immediately. "Let's go," she murmured, following the manager toward the exit. But as soon as they stepped out, the door next door flew open. "Hey, where do you think you're going?" one guard barked. The manager froze, trembling, beads of sweat rolling down his face. Gu Ning sighed inwardly. Great. With this coward around, we're as good as exposed. The men had already noticed the panic on his face. The one in a mask and another with dyed spiky hair drew their pistols in sync. Nobody move. But they'd just drawn their last mistake. Ji Yuning spun, seized the masked man's wrist. Crack. His hand snapped like a twig. One clean knife hand strike later, he dropped to his knees, groaning in agony. The spiky-haired thug raised his gun, but Gu Ning was faster. She flipped over, snatching the fallen weapon from the floor. With a fluid twist, she hurled it like a dagger. The gun struck him square in the forehead, and he let out a strangled grunt, eyes rolling back as he collapsed, foaming at the mouth. Before Gu Ning could even catch her breath, more men poured out from the next room, all armed, surrounding her from every side. Their leader sneered, "Kill her." The sound of guns being cocked echoed through the hallway, dozens of barrels aimed right at her. But before the first shot could fire, heavy boots thundered down the corridor. A team of soldiers in camo gear burst in. Leading them was the man with an unmistakable aura, Leng Xiaoting. In a swift motion, he pulled Gu Ning into his arms, shielding her as he charged through the crossfire. Gu Ning blinked in shock. It was him, the man who'd once given her the imperial green jade, Leng Xiaoting. "Close your eyes," he ordered calmly. When she opened them again, the fight was over, the floor littered with defeated enemies. Scanning the aftermath, Gu Ning's eyes caught a glint, an old jade thumb ring lying on the ground, radiating intense spiritual energy. She picked it up, and to her surprise, her jade eyes activated on their own, absorbing the ring completely. Elsewhere, one of Ling Xiaoting's men reported, "Commander, the encrypted thumb ring is missing. We searched the entire site. It's gone." Days later, back home, Guning finally lost her patience with Lin Lijuan's constant insults toward her mother. She slapped her across the face without hesitation. After earning a fortune at the gem fair, she decided to invest in her uncle's construction company, aiming for the most prestigious location in the entire materials market. "Money's not the issue," she told her aunt gently. "We just need to build something that lasts. Consider this my way of repaying the kindness of the real Guning's family." But the next morning at the construction market, fate delivered an unpleasant surprise. She ran into Lin Lijuan, Gu Xiaoxiao's mother. Lin Lijuan stepped out of her luxury car, draped in jewelry, radiating arrogance. The sales clerk practically bowed, smiling obsequiously as he introduced the shop space, fawning over her as if serving an empress. One of Lin Lijuan's friends eagerly flattered the room. "This shop is decent, totally worthy of your Gu family business." Encouraged, Lin Lijuan swelled with pride. She boasted that this was only a temporary office for the Gu group. They'd be buying a much larger building soon. As she stepped inside, she spotted Gu Ning and her group also checking out the space. Gu Ning met Lin Lijuan's sneer without flinching and calmly walked forward to confront her. The sales rep, smirking, leaned in and said, "Shaoli, really? You let anyone in here now? Don't you know how shabby they look?" The girlfriends chimed in with the same condescending tone. "So those are your poor relatives. How could they possibly afford a place like this?" Lin Lijuan scoffed louder. "Obviously they're being kept. Mother got pregnant out of wedlock and the daughter plays the seductress. What else do you expect?" Gu Ning's mother, furious at the insult, stepped forward to argue. Lin Lijuan grabbed her wrist and swung to slap her. Before the blow landed, someone's hand clamped down on hers, stopping it dead. Gu Ning's eyes turned ice cold. A pressure rolled out from her like a force. Lin Lijuan suddenly felt breathless. Ji Ning's voice was flat and deadly. "If you lay a finger on her, I will make you pay." Just then, the sales clerk walked over and said politely, "This shop has already been purchased by Mr. Qin Yifan, on behalf of a lady named Gu Ning." Already shaken by Gu Ning's aura, Lin Lijuan completely lost her temper upon hearing the news. Her chosen shop, gone, to that girl. She snapped, spewing filthy insults, accusing Gu Ning and her mother of being kept women by the Qin family heir. But in the middle of her rant, a cold voice cut through the air behind her. "Who exactly did I keep?" The blood drained from Lin Lijuan's face. She turned stiffly and saw Qin Yifan himself standing there. Her knees nearly gave out. Qin Yifan calmly handed the signed property documents to Gu Ning. Then he turned to Lin Lijuan, his tone icy. "You really don't know who you're talking to. Ji Ning's abilities surpass mine. You'd be wise to watch your mouth." Meanwhile, the jade thumb ring Gu Ning had accidentally absorbed contained a shocking secret. Evidence tied to a major criminal network. She hadn't meant to take it. Her jade eyes had drawn it in on their own. Lung Xiaoting soon realized the ring was missing. Remembering Gu Ning's uneasy expression, he began to suspect she might have it. The next day, Gu Ning returned to school, bringing small gifts to thank the friends who'd once stood by her side. After school, Gu Ning planned to visit Yitzuexian to ask Qin Yifan for help crafting a few pairs of jewelry. What she didn't notice was the black car following quietly behind, driven by Lung Xiaoting himself. When Gu Ning took out the Fulu show Jade, Qin Yifan was utterly stunned. She hurriedly invited Gu Ning to sit down, pouring her a cup of her newly bought tea to celebrate the find. Seeing how much Qin Yifan adored the jade, Gu Ning smiled and said she'd give her the leftover fragments as a thank you for all her help lately. After leaving Yitzuexian, Gu Ning wandered into a small restaurant for dinner. But before she could finish her meal, a familiar figure slid into the seat across from her. She looked up. It was Lung Xiaoting. Instantly she grabbed her wallet, ready to leave. "Nothing good ever happens when you show up," she muttered with a pout. "Guess I'm losing my appetite again." Lung Xiaoting caught her wrist before she could go, his tone sharp and cold. He wanted to know where was the ring. Clearly the jade thumb ring wasn't ordinary. Gu Ning's heart tightened. The ring was already absorbed by her jade eyes, and with so many cameras around, taking it out now would expose her secret. She'd have to wait for the right moment. So she grinned mischievously and said, "I don't know what ring you're talking about. Don't believe me? Go ahead, search me." Hearing that, Lung Xiaoting's face flushed red as if he'd just been caught doing something improper, and he instantly let go of Gu Ning's hand. What kind of spell did this girl cast on me? He thought, frustrated at his own loss of composure. While he stood frozen, Gu Ning had already slipped out of the restaurant. Snapping out of it, Lung Xiaoting hurried after her. He had no real plan, he simply followed from a distance, hoping she might lead him to the missing ring. Before long, he trailed her all the way to the entrance of her apartment complex. Just then, his aide Su Jingshan rushed into the car reporting, "Sir, we don't need the ring anymore. The criminals have confessed." But Lung Xiaoting didn't even react. His eyes stayed locked on Gu Ning's figure. Su followed his gaze, then blurted out, "Wait, isn't that right next to my building?" Lung Xiaoting's eyes lit up. "Perfect, I'll be staying at your place for now, easier to keep an eye on her." Su's face turned pale. "The boss living with me. I'm doomed." He tried to object, but one glance at Lung Xiaoting's cold, warning stare shut him right up. Forcing a smile, he scratched his nose and muttered, "Sure, you move in. I didn't say no." The next morning, Gu Ning headed to school as usual. Halfway there, someone called her name from behind. She turned and scowled. "You again, you creepy stalker." Lung Xiaoting crossed his arms, feigning innocence. "I'm not stalking you, I just happen to live next door." And just like that, he managed to turn blatant tailing into a coincidental encounter. Gu Ning knew Lung Xiaoting was after the jade ring, so she asked for his name and contact information, planning to return it when the time was right. When she learned his name, she couldn't help but tease, "Lung Xiaoting. Wow, you really are as cold and stiff as your name." To take revenge on the Tang family, Gu Ning decided to build her own business empire from the ground up. And today marked her first step. She would officially own her own real estate company. Meanwhile, in the school's grove, a brutal 3-on-1 fight was taking place. The boy being beaten lay curled on the ground, helpless under the rain of punches and kicks. One tall student, still unsatisfied, grabbed a brick from the ground ready to strike a killing blow. Just then, Gu Ning burst in like lightning, kicking the attacker clear off his feet. The bullies froze when they saw her, then scrambled to flee. Everyone at school had heard of this fearless girl boss. The beaten boy staggered up, forcing a smile. "Thanks." Gu Ning blinked in surprise. It was an E, the boy who'd once confessed to her. That he quickly explained what had happened. His stepmother had stolen his family's real estate funds, leaving the company on the brink of bankruptcy. Because of it, an E had become the target of mockery and even violence from his classmates. Those 3 who attacked him were from his own class. Hearing this, an audacious idea formed in Gu Ning's mind. She helped an E to his feet, saying she'd take him to the infirmary first and visit his family after school. An Yi's face turned bright red. "I meet my parents. Isn't that a little fast?" Later that day at the family home, his father and Guangyao nearly fell out of his chair when he heard Gu Ning wanted to buy his real estate company, thinking she was joking. Gu Ning smiled calmly. "I understand I'm young, so it's natural for you to be cautious. But if I'm not mistaken, my offer is probably the highest one you've received, isn't it?" She was right that if Guangyao refused, the company would soon be bought out at a bargain price, and decades of hard work would go to waste. Setting her teacup down, Gu Ning remained composed. She reached into her bag and handed him a business card. "The acquisition process is complicated and I don't have time for games. This is my card. I currently run a jewelry company." And Guangyao examined it, frowning. "Miss Gu, who are you representing? Who's backing you?" Gu Ning stood, smiling faintly. "No one. I represent myself and I'm here to acquire Xinhua real estate." She knew exactly what she was doing. If she secured Xinhua, she could link it with her uncle's construction business, a partnership that would benefit both sides immensely. As Gu Ning was about to leave, she decided to give Guangyao one final boost of confidence. With a calm smile, she said, "Xinghua's foundation is solid. It's only short on funds during this transition phase. With my investment, it'll rise again. If you've made up your mind, uncle, and just give me a call." And Guangyao stood frozen, clutching her business card as he watched her walk away. The young woman's composure and determination stunned him. If Xinhua ends up in her hands, he thought, it'll shake the entire real estate industry to its core. The very next day, Guangyao invited Gu Ning to discuss the acquisition in detail. Pouring her a cup of tea, he said, "400 million would certainly solve my immediate crisis. But Miss Gu offering such a high price suggests you already have a plan for Xinhua, yes? Gu Ning read between the lines he was asking what would become of him once the company changed hands. She replied, I will offer you 20% of the equity and appoint you as chairman, with real decision-making authority. I prefer win-you-win outcomes, she added evenly. Given my position, it isn't suitable for me to be the public face. You are better placed to steer the ship. And Guang Yao pushed his glasses up and asked seriously, You're not worried I'd take the money and strip your power? Gu Ning slid a bank card across the table and met his gaze. Use my funds to restore your company. Use your network so I can expand. It's mutually beneficial. You have no reason to betray me. And Guang Yao laughed, then rose to shake her hand. Miss Gu, you're refreshingly frank. I won't let you down. But beneath the handshake his expression hardened. With Xinghua's future suddenly bright, those who once stabbed them in the back would soon pay the price. The old matriarch, sharp-tongued and spiteful as ever, lashed out at her granddaughter, calling her a wild brat without a family. But before she could gloat, her own rage nearly made her faint. It was the day of the Gu family banquet, and Gu Ning arrived at the restaurant with her mother. The moment the old lady saw her, memories of their last confrontation reignited her fury. Gu Ning, who allowed a wild brat like you to show up here? She shouted. The venom in her voice drew startled looks from everyone around. Her eldest son, Gu Qingxiang, quickly stepped forward. Mom, please let's go inside first. You're the head of this family, don't make a scene. But the old woman refused to back down. No, if that brat stays, I'm leaving. Gu Ning's mother, seeing her daughter humiliated, darkened visibly. Mother, please watch your words. She's my daughter, not some wild child. The protest only made the old woman angrier. That girl not only hit Xiao Xiao, she dared to shout at me too. Utterly outrageous. Gu Ning stepped forward, eyes cold. Xiao Xiao insulted me first. Who else should I have hit? You call it disrespect, but I call it self-respect. Truly, what a family with no manners. Gu Ning's words, a family with no manners, hit like a slap. The old matriarch's eyes rolled back as she clutched her chest, gasping for breath in fury. Trembling, she jabbed a finger at Gu Ning's mother. Look at you, shameless woman, and the beast you raised. Shut up. Gu Ning's cold shout cut through the hall like thunder, silencing everyone. For 18 years, you called me a bastard and my mother a whore, and we had to swallow it all. Enough. From this day on, I'll never endure your insults again, not a single one. The old woman was struck speechless, wheezing in public humiliation. Then from the crowd a clear voice rang out. Well said. Gu Ning turned. It was her former doctor and Qian. Gu Qingxiang recognized her and sneered, just a small-time doctor, daring to meddle in Gu family business? At that moment, a tall man in a tailored suit strode forward, exuding authority. And Qian smiled, linking her arm with his. Allow me to introduce my boyfriend Lu Zhengyu. The name alone made Gu Qingxiang's expression collapse. In an instant, his arrogance melted into flattery. President Lu, what a coincidence. About that project bid we discussed last time, why don't I host dinner tonight? But before he could finish, Lu Zhengyu cut him off coldly. Gu Construction's materials are substandard. There's nothing to discuss. Gu Ning seized the opening with a poised smile. President Lu, my company happens to have a batch of premium materials. Would you be interested in talking business with me instead? Lu Zhengyu smiled and agreed. After all, Gu Ning had once saved In Qian's life at the hospital. He owed her that much. But the old matriarch, still fuming, lashed out again, pointing her cane at him. She shouted, My son invites you to dinner and you refuse, yet you'll dine with that wild brat? Are you mocking my family? Lu Zhengyu turned his head and gave the raging old woman a cold glance. Out of respect for her age, he said nothing and simply walked away. Gu Ning, meanwhile, reaffirmed her resolve to avenge her mother and crush the Tang family. She would build her own business empire. A few days earlier she had acquired a real estate company, but it required huge capital to operate. So she decided to head back to Jushur to hunt for hidden treasures. To avoid drawing attention, she put on a black dress and large sunglasses, disguising herself as a poised, mature woman. Smiling, she told Zhou Jinghong, From now on, I'm the heiress of a powerful family. You'll play my assistant. Let's make it convincing. Activating her jade sight, Gu Ning strolled through the antique and jade market. Whenever she spotted stones glowing faintly with spiritual energy, she bought the entire pile without hesitation. By the end of her walk, the hall was impressive. She waved a hand for Zhou Jinghong to start cutting the stones, while she went off to browse on her own. Her steps led her to an auction hall. On stage, a so-called replica of an inkwash landscape painting was being sold. Gu Ning focused her sight, faint spiritual energy coiled around the artwork. Without hesitation, she bid 50,000 yuan to win the piece and also purchased a deer-head ceramic vessel displayed near the entrance. The crowd murmured in disbelief. Seriously, that's a fake. What a spoiled rich girl wasting money just to show off. Gu Ning smiled to herself, one real, one fake. The truth was hidden beneath the surface. The so-called imitation painting was actually the shell concealing the authentic masterpiece. Meanwhile, Zhou Jinghong had struck gold literally with a flood of valuable jadeite from their recent finds. Within days, Gu Ning made the headlines. Heiress shocks the industry, 3 million in raw jade yields 30 million fortune. Zhou Jinghong happily rushed to share the news with her. Gu Ning smiled calmly. Now it's time to pave the way for Fai's beauty. Book a private room. I'm inviting Master Yan and Master Fu to dinner. That evening, at the entrance of Dunhuang Grand Hotel, the city lights shimmered. Zhou leaned in to whisper. Master Yan's son, Yan Jinglin, is coming too. He's a major figure in Jusha. Earning his favor could be a huge advantage for us. But just as Master Yan's group stepped out of the car, chaos erupted. A gunshot split the air. The bullet streaked straight toward Yan Jinglin. Luckily, Gu Ning had sensed something wrong. She lunged forward, kicking him aside just in time to save his life. The shooter, realizing he had missed, vanished into the crowd in an instant. Still shaken, Yan Jinglin pulled Gu Ning aside. Go home. Now. We've drawn too much attention. The Xihua group has its eyes on us. Being seen together could put you in danger. That very night, Gu Ning boarded a flight back to F City. At the airport, Chu Peihan and Hao Ran came personally to pick her up. On the way, Chu Xianfeng looked surprised. His sister knew Gu Ning, though Gu Ning didn't seem to recognize him. I saw you that day, he explained. When the Blue-Silver gang ambushed you, I was watching nearby. The moment Chu Peihan heard her brother's men had taken part in that ambush, her face darkened. Without a word, she grabbed him by the collar and gave him a proper beating right there. Later, on her way back to class, Gu Ning was stopped by Gu Xiaoxiao. Was it you? Xiaoxiao shouted furiously. Did you tell Li Zhengyu to cut my father out of the deal? Gu Ning ignored her completely, which only made Xiaoxiao more hysterical. Your mother promised already. Now you're going back on your word. Gu Ning's tone was cold as ice. A company that refuses to grow is destined for bankruptcy. At that, Qin Zheng, who had been trying to comfort Xiaoxiao, quietly pulled her hand away. Later in class, the teacher announced that Gu Ning had earned first place in the exams. But some classmates immediately accused her of cheating. After all, she'd always ranked near the bottom before. The teacher sighed helplessly. Ji Yuning, calm as ever, said, check the security footage or let me retake the test. Either way's fine. But when it's cleared up, she added coolly, I expect a public apology. After class, Gu Ning set up a meeting with the icy man Ling shouting. Her goofy sidekick overheard the plan and frowned. Seafood palace. But boss, you're allergic to seafood. The next second he was kicked right out of the car. Sitting alone by the roadside, the poor guy sighed, clutching his chest. Boss, can't you at least act human once in a while? At the entrance of the seafood palace, the evening breeze carried a faint salty scent. Leng Shouting glanced at his watch, silently cursing himself. Why was he being so eager for her? When Gu Ning arrived, she handed him the jade ring and said coolly, we're even now. Leng Shouting froze, a strange emptiness flickering in his chest. Would he ever see her again? Just as the silence grew heavy, Gu Ning suddenly asked, have you ever seen a laser weapon? Leng Shouting recalled the recent headlines and how often she seemed to attract danger. Reaching into his jacket, he took out a brooch. This is what we usually use for self-defense. Gu Ning's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Can I take a look? Who would have thought the ice block had finally melted? Leng Shouting was actually falling for her. To give her a gift. He even picked a fight first. While most men chase women with roses and jewelry, Leng Shouting's idea of romance was a self-defense weapon and a sparring match. The funniest part, he nearly lost. When Gu Ning took the brooch, her eyes gleamed in surprise. The next second, Leng Shouting said, it's yours. His easy surrender made her suspicious. Was he too agreeable? Maybe she'd been too friendly. Lung Shouting coughed lightly. How about a little spar? Last 10 minutes and it's officially yours. Gu Ning accepted without hesitation. They headed straight to a boxing gym. On the ring, Gu Ning struck first fast, fierce and precise. Lung Shouting caught her fist midair and locked her in place with a swift counter. But Gu Ning's reflexes were sharp. She slammed her left elbow back hard, breaking free in an instant. Lung Shouting stumbled a few steps back, and the air between them crackled with adrenaline. 10 minutes flew by in no time. Gu Ning could tell he'd gone easy on her. Catching her breath, she wondered who on earth could have injured someone this skilled so badly before. Lung Shouting tossed the brooch to her casually. Gu Ning caught it, her eyes lighting up with joy. Lung Shouting glanced at a news alert on his phone and said calmly, "Next time, try not to get yourself in danger again." Her cheeks flushed instantly, so he had planned to give this to her all along. She smiled, thanked him softly and got out of the car. Outside, her goofy sidekick was waiting, looking like he'd just watched a live-action romance. He yanked open the car door and shouted, "Boss, I brought her here for you and you did go to see Gu Ning." To his surprise, the ice-cold man stayed perfectly calm and said flatly, "So what?" The goofy sidekick froze. "Wait, are they together now?" Lung Shouting added casually, "Not yet." The guy blinked, then burst out laughing. Well, the ancient iceberg finally bloomed. The next morning on her way to school, Gu Ning was stopped by a few men sent by Gu Xiaoxiao. A blonde thug shoved toward her, snarling, "Get in the car." Gu Ning's face darkened as she rolled her shoulders. "Didn't Xiaoxiao tell you what I'm capable of?" The men blinked, confused by her calm. In the next instant, Gu Ning threw a single punch and within seconds, they were all on the ground groaning. She caught one who tried to run and snapped, "Who sent you?" "We're from Liaoning," he stammered. Gu Ning frowned. "Liaoning? That was a rescue organization, not a gang." She yanked open the car door and dragged out the man hiding inside. Lin Yuehao, Gu Xiaoxiao's cousin. The whole group dropped to their knees, begging for mercy, blurting out that Xiaoxiao was behind it all. As Gu Ning walked away, she tossed over her shoulder, "Tell Gu Xiaoxiao her days at Sangao are numbered." By afternoon, word spread through the school Gu Xiaoxiao had hired thugs to attack Gu Ning. Students whispered in disgust, her perfect girl image completely shattered. When Chu Peihan and Hao Ran heard what Gu Xiaoxiao had done, they decided to get revenge for Gu Ning. They kicked open the classroom door. Karma hit fast, and Gu Xiaoxiao was finally facing the consequences. The school called in her parents to start the withdrawal process, and by that night the story had made local headlines. Even Qin Yifan's sister showed up, storming into the room and surrounding Gu Xiaoxiao, who was too terrified to say a word. Chu Peihan stepped forward and slapped her across the face. The crack echoed through the room. Students whispered, "Damn, that girl's fierce." Furious, Gu Xiaoxiao raised her hand to fight back, only to get another slap that sent her head spinning. Qin Zheng couldn't take it anymore and jumped in to protect her, shouting that they were going too far. But Mu Ke landed a solid punch on his face, sneering, "Didn't expect you to be this weak. Want me to try again?" She pointed a finger at him. "Keep that girl on a leash. Next time it won't end this easy." Just then, amid the chaos, someone knocked on the classroom door. Gu Ning stood there calmly and said, "Gu Xiaoxiao, the principal wants to see you now." In the dean's office, Gu Ning laid out all the evidence of Gu Xiaoxiao's bullying. The principal's face turned grim. He finally realized how badly he'd neglected his duty. Gu Xiaoxiao, however, started playing the victim, crying that the principal was being unfair. The man's tone went cold. 10 minutes. Your father will be here to sign your withdrawal papers." Xiaoxiao froze. She never thought the school would actually expel her. When her father arrived, he shamelessly tried to fix it with money, even begging Gu Ning to speak on their behalf. The principal snapped, scolding them for their arrogance and lack of remorse. Gu Ning fired back, "Your daughter hired thugs to humiliate me. The fact I didn't call the police is already mercy." Leaving the rest to the principal, she calmly returned to class. Back in the classroom, Chu Peihan grumbled that expulsion wasn't enough and suggested leaking the story to the media. Just then, a chubby classmate piped up, "Hey, my uncle's turning 60 tomorrow, we're invited to the party." Everyone hesitated, thinking it'd be awkward, but Gu Ning saw it as a perfect chance to build connections. Hao Ran even invited an E to join them, leaving him a little flustered but happy. That night, a headline hit the internet. 18-year-old girl fights back against school bullying. When Lung Xiaoting saw the article, he couldn't help but message Gu Ning, "Are you hurt?" Gu Ning replied simply, "I'm fine." Lung Xiaoting told her he'd be heading into the mountains for a mission and wouldn't be around for a while. Ji Ning told him to stay safe. Then added a playful moi emoji. The cold-faced man's pupils widened for a split second. He imagined her actually kissing him. His face flushed scarlet, and he clutched his chest, heart racing uncontrollably. The next day at the banquet, Li Jinjin arrived in a dazzling gown, basking in the flood of compliments around her. She spread her arms, expecting Qin Yifan to greet her with a warm hug. But instead, Qin Yifan stepped right past her and called out brightly, "Gu Ning." Seeing Gu Ning all dressed up, his eyes lit up. She was stunning. Li Jinjin's smile froze instantly, jealousy flashing in her eyes. Mu Ku stepped forward, gracefully presenting their gift to the host. Qin Yifan led Gu Ning inside, proudly introducing her to his older sister. Qin Yiqing greeted her politely, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries. Out of nowhere, Qin Yiqing smirked and sneered, "That jewelry you're wearing, my little brother gave it to you, didn't he?" Gu Ning smiled calmly. "Oh, this? Just something I bought myself." Qin Zheng's face turned pale green. The necklace around her neck easily cost 8 figures. The man beside her suddenly regretted ever breaking up with her. Just then Li Jinjin appeared, linking arms with Qin Yiqing. Always fond of Jinjin, Qin Yiqing wasted no time selling out her brother, pushing the woman toward Qin Yifan. But Qin Yifan didn't even spare Jinjin a glance. Instead, his sister pulled Gu Ning over to their father for the birthday toast, leaving both women standing there, faces twisted with jealousy and embarrassment. On the way back, Chu Peihan complained, "I didn't even get to eat properly." The group decided to grab some street food instead. Chu Xianfeng received a message from his boss saying he'd arranged to pick him up, but he was stuck having dinner with Gu Ning and couldn't leave. The boss replied with the second emoji in his chat history, a subtle warning face. Xianfeng sighed helplessly. At the night market, everyone drank beer and devoured skewers, laughing and chatting like old friends. Just as Chu Xianfeng was getting into the vibe, a firm hand landed on his shoulder. A low voice said, "You're late." The crowd instantly quieted. The man's presence radiated raw power. Chu Peihan froze. She recognized him at once, brother Situ. Chu Xianfeng quickly covered it up, forcing a laugh. He's just my boss." To break the awkward silence, Chu Xianfeng laughed and said, "How about a mountain hike tomorrow?" Mu Ku frowned, thinking there wasn't enough time to prepare the gear. Unexpectedly, Situ offered, "No problem, my company has all the equipment ready. You can use ours." Xianfeng hesitated. Isn't it a bit much to use company gear?" But Situ smiled faintly and added, "Don't worry, I'm coming too." Gu Ning froze for a second. This man really didn't understand the word no. Everyone's eyes turned toward her. With no way to decline, she nodded in agreement. The next day, everyone was gasping for breath halfway up the trail. Only Gu Ning was still full of energy, teasing them for being out of shape. Suddenly, Situ lunged toward her. "Watch out," he shouted. Ji Ning reacted instantly, dodging to the side, crouching low and countering with a swift punch. Situ blocked it just in time, their eyes locking in a brief standoff. He was quietly impressed. Her reflexes and power were remarkable. "She's exactly the kind of talent I need." But Gu Ning's expression hardened. She knew he'd done it on purpose. "So, Mr. Situ," she asked coldly, "what did you find out?" Situ merely turned to Chu Xianfeng with a smirk. "Told you she'd wipe the floor with you, believe me now?" Chu Xianfeng blinked, completely lost. After a long pause, he muttered, "Fine, I believe you," silently sulking like a cartoon villain chewing on a handkerchief. Gu Ning rolled her eyes. "You think too much. Maybe try enjoying the beauty of nature for once." She took a deep breath. Pure energy surged through her body, filling her with clarity and calm. Suddenly, a powerful wave of spiritual energy erupted from the base of the mountain. To everyone's surprise, Gu Ning seemed to glow faintly, her beauty enhanced as if the aura itself had refined her features. Situ caught the change, eyes narrowing slightly before murmuring, "You look incredible." His words drew the others closer, all curious about what he saw. Under the sunlight, her eyes shimmered like clear water, mesmerizing and bright. Gu Ning sighed, snapped her fingers and said dryly, "Enough staring." She figured it must be from absorbing too much spiritual energy. Just then her phone buzzed a message from Qin Yicheng asking to meet at 2 p.m. That afternoon they met at a cafe. Ji Yuning greeted her politely, but Yicheng ignored her. Setting down her cup, Qin Yicheng sneered, "I heard your family used to be pretty poor, huh?" Gu Ning played along, pretending to be shy and humble, subtly luring her into revealing her true intent. Her big, luminous eyes sparkled under the light, leaving Yicheng slightly dazed. The more she looked, the angrier she became. Convinced Gu Ning was a seductress, she snapped, "Stay away from my brother." Gu Ning smirked. "Oh, your brother's quite the success. That fortune, prosperity, longevity Jade he gave your father, impressive piece." Qin Yicheng lifted her chin proudly. "And you know you no longer belong with the Gu family." Gu Ning's voice turned icy. "You're right, the Qin family isn't worthy of me. That jade your brother gave, the raw material came from my stock." Qin Yicheng slammed the table, furious. "Impossible. There's no way something that valuable came from you." Gu Ning let out a cold laugh and pulled out a jade bracelet crafted from the same fortune, prosperity, longevity stone. The gem shimmered with a pure, radiant glow, its beauty undeniable. Qin Yicheng's face went pale, completely humiliated. "So shallow," Gu Ning thought. "Only sees what's on the surface." Refusing to believe it, Qin Yicheng hurriedly grabbed her phone to confirm. Moments later, Qin Yifan arrived, visibly anxious, unsure what his sister might have done this time. As soon as he reached the table, he asked worriedly, "She didn't give you any trouble, did she?" Gu Ning stayed composed. "Then explain what happened at your family banquet," she said evenly. But Yicheng exploded like a madwoman, shouting, "I'll never allow a woman like you into our family." That was the last straw. Qin Yifan slammed the table and roared, "Do you even realize? The jade said I gave father the fortune, prosperity, longevity came from her. All of Tsuishuan's finest jade relies on her supply." Yicheng froze, her face drained of color, still stammering, "Impossible. I checked, she's just a broke nobody." Qin Yifan's voice dropped, cold and furious. "I've been doing everything to keep her close to the Qin family, and you've ruined it all. If father finds out, you're finished." Yicheng panicked instantly, pleading, "Please don't tell him. I'll fix it, I promise." Gu Ning stood up, her tone calm but sharp. "Handle your family drama, Qin Yifan. I don't want there to be a next time." He instinctively reached out to grab her, but she stepped back, eyes full of rejection. Looking utterly defeated, Qin Yifan muttered an apology, then suddenly took her hand, his voice trembling. "Gu Ning, I like you." Gu Ning calmly pulled her hand away. Her voice was cold. "I don't like you. Let's forget this ever happened. You wouldn't want to ruin Cui Xian's business, right?" Watching her walk away, Qin Yifan felt a hollow ache in his chest. Outside the cafe, Gu Ning exhaled deeply. "Love only slows me down. I'd rather focus on making money." She was about to call Uncle Zhou about business updates when she noticed a familiar name, the Iceberg Man. Meanwhile, the Iceberg himself was resting with his goofy teammate Henin, after a dangerous mission. Suddenly his phone buzzed a message from Gu Ning. Henin grinned. "Oh ho, the missus is texting." The Iceberg glared. "Say one more word and I'll bury you." Henin snorted. "Keep playing hard to get, boss. Your girl's gonna run off with someone else." Before he could react, Henin snatched the phone right out of his hand. The next second, click, the call connected. On the other end, Gu Ning frowned. "Wait, isn't this Mr. Iceberg's number? Who are you?" The Iceberg froze, utterly mortified, lunging to grab his phone back. But Henin danced away, laughing as he spoke into the mic. "Sis, you should have seen him. The boss was a total hero this time. Took down a dozen bad guys, got a little hurt though." "He's hurt?" came Gu Ning's worried voice. The Iceberg finally yanked the phone back, face burning red. "He's lying. I'm fine. Don't worry about it, really." Gu Ning froze. "Wait, was I actually nervous just now?" Henin nudged the Iceberg Man hard. "Dude, say something. Keep the convo going." After a long pause, he finally blurted out stiffly, "So, what did you do today?" Henin facepalmed. "Bro, that's not flirting, that's an interrogation." Gu Ning awkwardly laughed. "Nothing much. Had some coffee, got confessed to." The line went dead silent. Both men froze like statues. She frowned. "Hello, you still there?" They both spoke at once, the Iceberg Man's voice low and serious. "You're still a student. Focus on your studies first." Gu Ning smiled faintly, secretly amused at so he doesn't want me to say yes, huh? She teased. Thanks for the advice, but I can handle both studying and dating. He stiffened again, blurting, still, maybe you should think about it more. Don't rush. Just then Chu Peihan came running over, panicked. Mishi. Something happened at home. Gu Ning immediately hung up. On the other end, the iceberg man just stared at his phone, dazed. His partner Henin chuckled. Boss, you're living the full drama, love, rival, awkward timing and emotional whiplash. Perfect combo. After sorting things out, Gu Ning returned home only to find the iceberg man waiting outside. Fresh from his mission, he stepped forward cautiously. Why are you back so late? The guy who confessed he didn't drive you home, did he? Gu Ning burst out laughing, instantly catching on to his jealousy. Hands on her hips, she tilted her head playfully. Relax. Dating doesn't stop me from working hard. Leng Shouting hurried to explain. That's not what I meant. Gu Ning teased. Oh really? Then what did you mean? Before he could answer, she turned to leave. But Leng Shouting suddenly grabbed her arm, demanding, Who was that man who just dropped you off? Caught off guard, Gu Ning lost her balance and fell straight into his arms, her soft lips brushing against his ear. Both of them froze in shock. Leng Shouting's entire face flushed red. A second later, he panicked and bolted away in embarrassment. Later, while taking a shower, Leng Shouting unconsciously touched his ear again, a faint, meaningful smile curling on his lips. The next day, Leng Shouting went to the hospital to look for Gu Ning. To his surprise, she was standing with C2. At that moment, C2 was eagerly inviting her into his car. Leng Shouting's heart skipped a beat, panic flashing in his eyes. Without thinking, he rushed after them. Just then, Leng Shouting's trusty sidekick called in. Boss, don't you think you're a little too focused on her? Stop making excuses. Leng Shouting fell silent for 3 seconds, no denial, no excuse. Yeah, he said finally. I like her. Without hesitation, he spun the wheel and sped after C2Ye's car. Meanwhile, C2Ye had just successfully handed Gu Ning his business card after all. A good connection is a good connection. Gu Ning accepted it with a polite smile. As she got out of the car and was about to head home, someone suddenly called out to her. Leng Shouting strode up, demanding, Why are you here? Isn't C2Ye the guy who confessed to you? Gu Ning frowned. I don't want to talk about that. Leng Shouting pressed on, stepping right on the landmine. C2Ye isn't someone you should get involved with. I know what I'm doing, Gu Ning replied calmly and turned to leave. The next second, Leng Shouting panicked and grabbed her wrist. His face flushed as he shouted, Whatever he can do for you, I can too. Gu Ning smirked, looking straight at him. And why would you help me? We don't have any relationship. The legendary cold-faced man completely lost his composure. His expression looked exactly like that third emoji on your phone. Finally, Leng Shouting gritted his teeth. We can have a relationship, he said seriously. Gu Ning leaned in with a teasing smile, her voice low and playful. Oh really? What kind of relationship, exactly? The next moment, Leng Shouting suddenly pulled her into his arms from behind and blurted out, Can I pursue you? Gu Ning turned around in disbelief, staring at him. With a serious expression, Leng Shouting continued, Can I be in a relationship with you? The sudden confession caught Gu Ning completely off guard, her cheeks flushed red. Hearing his straightforward, I like you, her heart skipped uncontrollably. It was the most honest kind of confession. When she didn't respond for a while, Leng Shouting panicked. You don't want to? Gu Ning gently slipped out of his embrace. Leng Shouting's heart instantly sank. Then Gu Ning said with a straight face, I don't like jealous guys. Leng Shouting blushed hard, trying to explain, but Gu Ning pushed him away. Don't get jealous over everything, she said calmly. If C2 likes me too, then you've just got yourself another rival. Leng Shouting's face fell for a second, then his brain caught up. Wait, does that mean I can actually chase her? Gu Ning smiled proudly. Then I'll give you a chance. Before leaving, she patted his shoulder and said seriously, Do your best. The once cold Xiao instantly turned into a shy little puppy and murmured. When Gu Ning returned home, the housekeeper hurried over, saying her daughter had gone straight to her room and seemed upset. Her mother added softly, I think I heard Xinyue crying. Gu Ning opened the door and was immediately met by Xinyue's tearful embrace. Xinyue tearfully explained that Xia Jiaojiao had been spreading rumors saying she seduced her boyfriend, and because Xia had powerful connections, no one dared to stand up for her. Without a word, Guning grabbed Xinyue's spare school uniform and put it on. When Xinyue asked what she was doing, Guning replied seriously, "Getting revenge for you, of course." The next morning, Leng Xiaoting was already waiting outside her house. When Guning showed up, he took her bag from her shoulder and insisted on walking her to school. Startled, Guning immediately refused. Leng Xiaoting didn't back down. Instead, he decided to run to school with her. Guning playfully slapped him on the butt and dashed off, laughing, "Catch up if you can." Once they reached school, Leng Xiaoting tried to invite Guning to have lunch with him. Guning turned him down flat. Refusing to give up, Leng Xiaoting asked again in the afternoon. Ji Yuning was about to decline but hesitated. She didn't want to hurt his pride, so she agreed, suggesting they go for seafood instead. As soon as they entered the school, Chu Peihan hooked her arm around Guning and grinned mischievously. "I saw everything." Guning played dumb, but Chu Peihan pressed, "Who's that handsome guy?" Flustered, Guning blushed. "You must have seen wrong," she mumbled before hurrying off. During lunch, Guning was talking to Xinyue on the phone when she suddenly heard a cry for help. A group of men had cornered Xinyue against a wall, fists clenched, ready to strike. Just as Xia Jiaojiao raised her hand to hit Xinyue, Guning grabbed her wrist in time. The rest of the group rushed forward, but every single attack was dodged. Within seconds, Guning had them all on the ground, groaning in pain. Guning quickly grabbed a strip of cloth and tied one of the men together with Xia Jiaojiao. With just a gentle push, both of them fell to their knees. Her eyes cold, Guning ordered, "Apologize. Now." Terrified by her presence, the whole group began apologizing in a panic. Just then a teacher arrived and immediately called the police. Xinyue trembled in fear. Xia Jiaojiao had powerful connections and the principal always protected her. Staying calm, Guning told the principal exactly what had happened. But the principal only cared about comforting Xia Jiaojiao. Guning sneered and mocked the principal for his obvious bias. Later at the police station, she gave the officers a full account of the incident. Leng Xiaoting called just then. Ji Yuning answered, saying calmly, "I'm at the station. I'll call you back later." Leng Xiaoting immediately tensed. "Why are you at the station?" he asked. Ji Yuning replied that she could handle it herself and continued speaking with the police. But Leng Xiaoting panicked. He instantly called the police chief. Moments later, the chief himself walked in, instructing his men to investigate the principal of 4th High School. Guning stood beside him and added, "I can provide the evidence." Not long after, Leng Xiaoting burst through the station doors. Seeing Guning, he rushed forward and asked anxiously, "Are you hurt?" The police chief smiled warmly. Miss Guning showed great courage. She not only reported the principal but also agreed to testify. Leng Xiaoting was stunned. Wait, that's it? He hadn't even gotten a chance to show off yet. But he quickly sighed and said softly, "As long as you're okay." Guning grinned and teased, "What could possibly happen to me?" Once in the car, Guning noticed that Leng Xiaoting was still wearing his home clothes. She realized he must have rushed over in a hurry. The thought made her heart flutter a little, while Leng Xiaoting blushed under her gaze. "What's wrong?" he asked. Ji Yuning's face turned red too. "And nothing," she stammered. "Let's just go back to school." On the way, Guning suggested, "Let's have steak tonight." Leng Xiaoting looked puzzled why the sudden change from seafood, but nodded anyway. Watching his clueless expression, Guning sighed helplessly. "Honestly, do you even know how to date a girl?" Later that night, after their date, Guning complained that going out with Leng Xiaoting was way too boring. Leng Xiaoting explained seriously, "I just didn't want to distract you from your studies." Guning puffed her cheeks in frustration. "You're way too stiff. You barely talk. And for your information, my grades are great." Leng Xiaoting went quiet, then blushed. "I'll study harder," he said earnestly. "Just give me a little more time. Don't lose faith in me yet." The sincerity on his face was unexpectedly adorable. That unexpected sweetness nearly made Guning's heart skip a beat. She reached out, gently patting his chest. "I believe you," she said with a smile. On her way home, Guning couldn't help but laugh at herself. "What's wrong with me?" She could reject anyone without hesitation, yet somehow this man completely disarmed her. The next morning it was raining softly. Leng Xiaoting was already waiting downstairs. offering to drive Guning to school. Once she got in the car, he handed her a small box that Jiuning blinked in curiosity. What's this? When she opened it, she froze for a moment. Her stoic soldier actually cooked. Every fried egg was heart-shaped. The tough guy had a secret soft side, and Guning couldn't help but feel her heart flutter. Lung Xiaoting smiled faintly and said, I made you breakfast. Guning's eyes widened. You can cook? When she opened the box fully, she was stunned by the neatly arranged, delicious-looking meal complete with fresh fruit and adorable heart-shaped eggs. After finishing breakfast and stepping out of the car, Guning thanked him sincerely, making Lung Xiaoting's face flush red. But neither of them noticed that someone nearby had secretly taken a photo. Later that day, Xiao Feifei proudly showed the picture around the class, spreading rumors that Guning was being kept by someone rich. The classroom buzzed with gossip. Chu Peihan and her friends began digging to find out who had posted the rumor. When Guning saw the messages, she simply said, just check the security cameras, we'll know who took the photo. At that moment, the homeroom teacher stormed into the classroom yelling, You again? Always causing trouble. Guning's face turned cold. Funny, she said. When I ranked first in the exams, I didn't hear a single compliment from you. The teacher slammed the desk furiously. Where did your respect for teachers go? The great director stepped in, saying nothing, just motioning for Guning to follow him to the office. On the way there, Guning's phone buzzed. She read the message. It revealed who had framed her. She asked the director to let her handle it herself, but he warned softly, don't make too much noise. Around noon, Qin Xiao tried to sneak out of class, only to be caught red-handed by Guning. Qin lashed out, accusing Guning of having a rich backer, but one cold glare from Guning shut her up fast. Later, she publicly admitted her mistake over the school broadcast. After school that evening, Guning invited her friends to come support her shop's opening day. On Saturday morning around 11 a.m., Guning spotted Lung Xiaoting on her way back and frowned. Why are you here? Lung Xiaoting looked genuinely guilty. I'm sorry, he said. This whole thing dragged you into trouble. Guning burst out laughing. Idiot. Lung Xiaoting blinked, confused. You're not angry? Guning smiled softly. It's got nothing to do with you. Hearing that, Lung Xiaoting finally let out a relieved breath. Just then Zhou Xinghong called. The jade they cut this time turned out to be a rare twin-color piece, double fortune in one stone. Lung Xiaoting looked genuinely surprised. A dragon and phoenix pair, he murmured. After hanging up, Guning explained that she needed to rush to her jewelry shop to prepare for the grand opening. Lung Xiaoting immediately offered, I'll drive you. I'm heading to the capital anyway. On the opening day, the place was packed. Business partners, old friends, and classmates all came to celebrate. Among the gifts, Qin Yifan stood out the most, a golden lion statue. Chu Peihan gasped beside her. That thing must weigh at least a few dozen kilos of gold. Guning quickly covered it and asked her staff to put it away. Wealth should never be flaunted. Still, she made a mental note to send a return gift. She called Qin Yifan afterward. The moment he heard her voice, excitement filled his tone. Guning, sensing his emotions, spoke calmly. I'd love for you to come by, but please no more gifts. Of course I'll be there, Qin said quickly, about to add something more, but Guning ended the call. She sighed in relief. Then out of nowhere, a teasing male voice sounded beside her. Pretty lady, can I get your number? He hadn't even officially won her heart, yet he was already drowning in jealousy. Lung Xiaoting wanted Guning to belong to him alone, shadowing her through the entire opening ceremony. When she noticed how serious he looked, especially when she shook hands with another man for more than 3 seconds, Guning couldn't help but laugh. Wait, what's he even doing here? It turned out that Lung Xiaoting had promised to drive Guning to the airport, and now he could clearly sense her bad mood. Under his intense, interrogative stare, Guning sighed. The person who made me upset might actually like me. After arriving in G-City, Uncle Zhou brought some great news. A popular show called History had sent an invitation for an exclusive interview. Ji Yuning instantly guessed this had to be Lung Xiaoting's doing. But when Uncle Zhou shared the news online, her old rival happened to see it. The man was so furious that he smashed a priceless teacup on the spot. Moments later, chaos erupted outside the store. Guning grabbed a stick and ordered firmly, Uncle Zhou, protect the crowd. That if they try to rob the jade, don't fight them, just keep everyone safe. Then without hesitation she charged into the mob, eyes cold, moves swift. Within seconds, every thug was on the ground, groaning in defeat. Soon after, the police arrived to clean up the mess. When Leng Xiaoting heard that Mayor Yan had stepped in to help Gu Ning, his jealousy flared instantly. He frowned, muttering darkly. Ji Yuning teased, "Oh, maybe I'll just ask Situ next time." That only made him even more upset. Ji Yuning raised a brow. "What's wrong with you?" Leng Xiaoting's voice dropped low, almost sulking. "You could've asked me for help." Gu Ning couldn't hold back her laughter. "Huh? So you are jealous?" Leng Xiaoting blushed, quickly explaining, "I was just saying you shouldn't overlook what's right in front of you." Then without warning he slipped an arm around Gu Ning's waist, pulling her close. His voice dropped low beside her ear. "Next time, come to me. Don't go looking for other men." Gu Ning's face turned bright red. She pinched his cheek playfully, thinking, how can someone this stoic be so adorable? Grinning, she took his hand. "Come on, I'll introduce you to someone." A moment later the two stood before Uncle Zhou. Leng Xiaoting shook his hand politely. "I'm Gu Ning's friend," he said. Uncle Zhou chuckled. "Friend? I thought you were her boyfriend. You'd better move fast, boss. Gu is in high demand." Leng Xiaoting replied seriously, "I can tell that he's very popular." Gu Ning, meanwhile, was simply trying to introduce him to a few of her acquaintances. But in Leng Xiaoting's mind, the scene had already turned romantic. She must like me. Why else would she want me to meet her friends? Seeing his flushed cheeks, Gu Ning blinked in confusion. What's he imagining now? On the day of the grand opening, Li Jinjin showed up. Spotting Leng Xiaoting beside Gu Ning, she huffed, "Wow, you really do attract handsome men." Qin Yifan, watching from nearby, felt a pang in his chest. So, she really does have someone now. Leng Xiaoting noticed him too and strode over, towering above with an icy stare that spoke volumes. Gu Ning quickly stepped in, smiling politely as she shook Qin Yifan's hand. Leng Xiaoting gave a soft cough from the side, a clear signal for her to let go, then smoothly guided Gu Ning away to greet the other guests. Li Jinjin sneered from the side, spitting, "You're really good at seducing men, aren't you?" On the way to the hall, Gu Ning teased him, "You're jealous again, aren't you?" Leng Xiaoting's ears turned red. "I'm not," he muttered stubbornly. After Scarlett Beauty opened, the place was filled with powerful figures from every corner of the jade and jewelry world. Li Jinjin fumed silently, yet she still had to drag her brother over to flatter Gu Ning. Then trouble struck. The jade transport truck got stuck halfway on the road. Just as Gu Ning and Leng Xiaoting were about to head out, a black car blocked their path. Several men in suits stepped out, carrying a striking piece of red coral. Gu Ning blinked in surprise, thinking it was from Leng Xiaoting, but the man explained, "This is a gift from Mr. Situ Yi." Leng Xiaoting's face darkened instantly. "That guy again, won't he ever quit?" he muttered under his breath. Li Jinjin's eyes widened in awe, practically drooling over the scene. Soon after, a line of luxury cars arrived, heads of major jade families stepping out one after another. Li Jinjin was about to explode with envy when even the mayor himself came to show support. One by one the guests offered expensive gifts. Ji Yuning hesitated, unsure whether to accept them. A young woman nearby smirked. "This one's from someone special just for you." Leng Xiaoting's expression turned stormy. He snatched the gift and shoved it into Gu Ning's hands. "Take it." Without another word he wrapped his arm around her waist and led her back inside. Gu Ning pushed him lightly, cheeks flushed. "Explain where these gifts came from or I'm not keeping them." Leng Xiaoting's cheeks turned red as he admitted, "These gifts? I brought them back when I went home a few days ago." Gu Ning froze for a moment. She hadn't realized he'd gone all the way to the capital just for that. Then lowering his head, Leng Xiaoting whispered teasingly, "Looks like you do like them." Gu Ning smirked, tugging on his tie as she leaned closer. "Of course I do." Their eyes met, and for a fleeting second, Gu Ning thought since my rebirth, meeting him might be the greatest stroke of luck. Meanwhile, Li Jinjin wanted nothing more than to avoid Gu Ning, but her brother knew better. Gu Ning was no longer someone they could afford to ignore. When Gu Ning saw the siblings approaching, she smiled politely. "What brings you two here?" After a few pleasantries, the Li siblings invited her to a private gathering. Gu Ning agreed without hesitation. Meeting more people could only be good for business. As she turned to leave, she gently patted Li Jinjin on the shoulder, her smile calm yet unreadable. See you there. Li Zhenjin, however, was instantly on edge, terrified Gu Ning was planning something against her. Later that evening, Gu Ning and Uncle Zhou were reviewing the store's accounts. Suddenly, a bodyguard rushed in, reporting that a shipment of Imperial Jade had been hijacked. Uncle Zhou's face darkened. It must be that old snake Xiaoping. Gu Ning decided to check it out herself, and Ling Xiaoting immediately volunteered to go with her. When they arrived, a crowd of angry citizens had surrounded the area, shouting curses at the corrupt developers. Gu Ning watched the chaos unfold, her eyes narrowing in curiosity. Within moments she pieced it together, the dispute was over demolition payments. "Tise, that real estate company really is rotten to the core," she muttered. Gu Ning quickly called Uncle Lin, instructing him to investigate the situation in detail. As Ling Xiaoting told her the road was clear, Gu Ning suddenly stepped out of the car, telling him to wait. She walked straight toward the angry residents, calmly explaining that she was willing to offer a higher price for their properties. Before leaving, she handed out her business card, promising to send a professional team to conduct site evaluations soon. Watching from a distance, Ling Xiaoting frowned slightly, concern flickering in his eyes. Could she really afford a land deal of this scale? When Gu Ning returned to the car, she gave a small, confident smile. "Don't worry," she said lightly, "I can pull the funds together." She blinked playfully at him, tilting her head in a teasing way. Ling Xiaoting was caught completely off guard, his face turning red when she added sweetly, "Relax, we're on the same team." Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a jade pendant. Gu Ning suddenly remembered Uncle Zhou mentioning that someone had bought the dragon and phoenix jade at an insanely high price. She chuckled, this silly man could have just asked her instead of wasting money. When Ling Xiaoting stayed silent, thinking she didn't like it, Gu Ning surprised him by tiptoeing up and biting his lower lip lightly. His whole face flushed crimson. Gu Ning pinched his chin and teased with a grin, "I really like the gift my boyfriend prepared." Realizing what she just said, her own face turned bright red. She spun around and ran off in embarrassment. It took Ling Xiaoting a second to process it, but when he did, his eyes widened. She admitted it. He immediately took off after her. That night, Gu Ning arrived at Li Zhenjin's lavish party. She spotted Li twisting her body in the middle of a group of flattering men. Soon Li sneered, "What's wrong? First time at a place like this?" Gu Ning calmly set her bag down and sneered, "Honestly, that's nothing to brag about." Li Zhenjin's expression darkened instantly, her pride wounded. A red-haired guy approached, trying to comfort her with a drink. Li took the glass and, with a fake smile, handed it toward Gu Ning, only to accidentally spill the liquor all over her clothes. Before the situation could escalate, Li's brother arrived and scolded her for making a scene. Gu Ning went to the restroom to clean up but immediately noticed something off about the smell of the wine. It had been tampered with. When she returned to the booth, Li Zhenjin was gone. Stepping outside the bar, Gu Ning spotted a car rocking suspiciously in the distance. Using her jade sight, her heart sank. Li Zhenjin was being assaulted. Fury surged through her veins. She rushed forward, yanked the car door open and grabbed the man by his hair. "You disgusting bastard," she shouted. "Rapist." Li Zhenjin, dazed and barely conscious, tumbled out of the car wearing nothing but her underwear. When she finally regained awareness and realized she was exposed, she broke down in tears. Gu Ning wasted no time. She called the police on the spot. Moments later, Li's brother arrived. Li threw herself into his arms, crying hysterically that Gu Ning had set her up. Gu Ning only sneered. She didn't even bother to defend herself. Dirty tricks like that weren't her style. Soon the onlookers began whispering, recognizing Li Zhenjin's identity. Driven by humiliation and rage, Li Zhenjin snapped, screaming at Gu Ning, "You should die." Suddenly the sound of camera shutters filled the air. Li Zhenjin went hysterical, rushing toward the crowd and screaming for them to stop, but she couldn't stop anyone. She fell to her knees, crying desperately, begging them not to take photos. The next morning, Gu Ning learned that Li Zhenjin's scandal had already hit the trending list. Someone had paid to push it there. Meanwhile, Gu Ning successfully signed the demolition contract. Ling Xiaoting warned her to stay alert. Hongyun real estate wasn't to be underestimated. But then came an even bigger surprise. The person who came to sign the papers was none other than the mayor's secretary. Everyone froze in shock. Since becoming a couple, Ling Xiaoting had turned a little clingy. The once cold soldier now wanted to stick to her all the time, even sneaking kisses before missions. A few thugs lurking nearby had planned to stir trouble. But when they saw the mayor's secretary in charge, they turned pale and ran off in fear. The chairman of Hongyun Group turned pale when he heard the news. The thugs pleaded, "Boss, let it go that we really messed with the wrong people this time." But the chairman clenched his fists, eyes filled with fury. "No," he growled. "I'll make them pay one way or another." Gu Ning sensed something was off. Deep down she knew these people would seek revenge. Leng Shouting pulled her into his arms, his voice calm and reassuring. "Don't worry, I'm here." Gu Ning smirked and gently lifted his chin. "You'd better keep that promise." Leng Shouting instantly flushed bright red. Just as the tension between them began to build, his phone rang sharply. Leng Shouting's expression darkened, but he answered, listened, and replied in a firm tone. "Understood, that I'll be there immediately." Gu Ning tossed her car keys with a playful grin. "Come on, I'll drive you." At the airport, Leng Shouting suddenly pulled her into his arms, planting a soft kiss on her forehead. "Sorry," he murmured. "Duty calls." Gu Ning coolly tossed her backpack into his hands and smiled. "I know where your priorities lie. Go before I start missing you." Leng Shouting couldn't resist. He bent down and kissed her lips deeply. As he walked away, his cheeks were still red. Gu Ning, left fuming and flustered, shouted after him, "You sneaky thief. You actually learned how to steal kisses." That evening, Gu Ning arranged a dinner meeting between Mr.An and Uncle Zhou. Both men had heard of each other before, and the first meeting went surprisingly well. Seeing the good chemistry, Gu Ning proposed a partnership, and both sides showed strong interest.